Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is really focused on mastering a skill that is just absolutely essential to human flourishing.
Hmm.
Yet it's one we rarely treat with the seriousness it deserves. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the art of making friends and, engaging in truly meaningful social conversations.
That's so right. Our listener is looking for, I think, a comprehensive shortcut,
Hmm.
a way to gain knowledge quickly, but thoroughly on how to navigate that social landscape effectively.
Right.
Turning those casual acquaintances into genuine, lasting connections. And we have a really powerful stack of sources here that functions like a true masterclass in, well, conversational strategy and social psychology.
Yeah.
Our goal is to move beyond the generic advice and really uncover the deep, often hidden mechanics necessary for authentic human connection.
I think that term hidden mechanics is fascinating because
Yeah.
we so often assume that social skill is just, inherent or that friendships should be effortless. But when we look at the source material, what's so interesting here is how much intentionality and depth is required, even in the simplest interactions.
Right.
I mean, just think about the most common exchange in the English language. Every single day we ask, "How are you doing?"
And every single day we get the same almost robotic, pre-programmed response.
Fine.
Fine, or good, or can't complain. And this is the core challenge our sources identify. We treat these essential foundational interactions, these moments of potential human collision like necessary bureaucratic
It's
steps.
like a box you have to check.
Exactly, that we have to dispatch quickly so we can get to the real business.
And the mission then is to inject intentionality into the casual,
Yes.
to recognize that even that simple greeting is an opportunity to signal availability and to sort of give a gift of information to the other person.
Let's start right there with the power of detailed greetings, because this is the first crucial step. It immediately signals to your conversational partner that you are present and actually interested in a real exchange, not just, reciting a social script.
The difference between the surface response and the detailed response is just, it's astonishing. When you respond with, "I'm doing well," that's a wall.
And it's dead end.
But when you respond with detail, you are giving the other person a map.
Exactly. Our sources provide a perfect illustrative example of how to execute this shift. So instead of a one-word answer, the suggested response was something like, "I'm doing wonderfully, thanks for asking.
Okay.
I had an excellent start to my day. I went for a morning jog through Central Park, grabbed a delicious cappuccino from my favorite cafe, and now I'm here ready to have this amazing conversation."
That response is dynamite. You are so right. It's not just a response, it's a series of invitations.
Yeah, it is.
Using those specific details about one's morning, the jog, the context of Central Park, the sensory detail of a delicious cappuccino from a favorite cafe, it immediately activates the listener's curiosity.
The psychological impact is immediate. It doesn't just convey information, it conveys a mood, a state of mind, and availability.
Right.
The other person instantly has 3 specific low-stakes entry points for follow-up questions.
Yeah, they can ask about your running or Central Park or the cafe.
Exactly. What makes that cafe your favorite? It creates instant common ground.
Even if the listener doesn't run, they can connect to the enjoyment of nature or the love of a good coffee or just the energy of a city morning.
Mhm.
The speaker has proactively done the work of generating material. They've passed the conversational baton, not just dropped it on the floor.
And that depth transfers immediately into the next foundational stage of conversation,
Yeah.
connecting through origins and backgrounds. Asking where someone is from originally is an incredibly rich vein to mine, provided you move beyond simple geography. It opens up cultural context, personal history, values, the whole trajectory of their life.
That can be tricky, though. I sometimes worry that asking, "Where are you from?" can feel a bit reductive, especially if the person has lived in multiple places.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it becomes a discussion of identity when you ask the right follow-up, which is the crucial point.
Okay.
What brought you here? Or what do you miss most about your hometown? That's what the sources highlight through their case studies. Let's look at the first one, Seattle, Washington.
Okay, so when you discuss Seattle, you get this immediate rapid-fire burst of key details. It instantly establishes context: the Pacific Northwest, the famous coffee culture and the tech industry, the persistent rain, and that strong connection to nature, mountains, and the Pacific Ocean.
If you're an American listener, those details immediately conjure up images of a specific lifestyle, rainy days, high innovation, and a serious outdoor culture. So if you hear those details, you can immediately pivot to asking about the quality of the hiking trails or the differences between the Seattle and New York tech scenes, or even, humorously, how they cope with the lack of sunlight.
And the source specifically mentions that the speaker moved to the new location 5 years ago for work. That connects the dots.
Right. It links the origin story to the current moment, their past identity to their present ambition.
Yeah.
Now compare that rapid high-tech context to the second case study, London, England.
Okay.
The context shifts entirely. It focuses less on industry and more on, cultural atmosphere and history. Specifically, the source mentions growing up near Notting Hill.
And that specific geography is so important.
Yes.
Notting Hill immediately evokes charm, colorful houses, vibrant markets, a multicultural atmosphere, which is so much richer than just saying from the UK.
It carries aesthetic and cultural weight, and the speaker links their origin to shared deep cultural conversation points, the attraction of London's history, its museums, and theater.
So that reveals an intellectual interest, which acts as another connecting thread.
But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The focus on subtle cultural differences. The speaker mentions missing proper afternoon tea and the British sense of humor.
Right, and that isn't a complaint. It's a nostalgic, humorous observation.
That phrase is a goldmine for building connection. It opens a door to discussing cultural nuances, the often reserved British demeanor, the subtleties of sarcasm, which transforms the conversation from just listing facts about a place to sharing insights about personality and cultural adjustment.
And the source emphasizes that international cities like New York thrive on this diversity. They function as true melting pots where people converge, bringing all these unique perspectives and life experiences.
The melting pot insight is that everyone you meet in a major international city has a trajectory, an origin story, and a reason for being where they are.
Oh, wow.
A why. And by asking the right follow-up question about that why they moved, what they value, you bypass the superficial pleasantries and you get straight to the heart of their values, their ambitions, and the challenges they overcame to be there.
I think the challenge for you, as the listener, is to be genuinely curious about that trajectory, not just the location itself.
That's a powerful and necessary distinction.
Because if you spend too much time focused on the geographical details, you might risk, fetishizing the exotic background rather than engaging with the actual person standing in front of you.
Absolutely. The goal isn't to quiz them on their culture. It's to use the details they provide as a launchpad for understanding their personal journey.
So if they talk about the cold in Seattle,
You ask how they adapted or what they learned about resilience. That makes the interaction about shared humanity, not just geography. So moving beyond the surface is all about providing enough specific, interesting detail in that standard social script to allow the other person to connect with you genuinely.
once that initial foundation is laid, the natural next step in deepening the connection is moving the dialogue towards shared passions. This is where we transition from where you've been to who you are.
Precisely. Discussing hobbies, interests, passions outside of work. That's the primary and most reliable way to establish true connection points.
Yeah.
Work often limits our identity to a professional title. Passions reveal our inner character, our energy sources, our voluntary pursuits.
Agreed. Work is context. Hobbies are character. Our source material gives us some incredibly specific details for intellectual and creative passions. Let's start with reading, which might seem solitary, but actually functions beautifully as a social anchor.
Being an avid reader, devouring fiction, nonfiction, biographies, that's a great start. But again, the depth comes in when you detail why and who you read.
Right.
The sources mention specific contemporary authors: Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Elena Ferrante, and Anthony Dower.
And listing these authors, especially modern, culturally relevant ones, provides instant conversational anchors. If someone recognizes them, boom, you found common ground immediately. But even if they don't, the speaker still offers that analytical depth.
The speaker notes how these writers use exquisite language, providing specific analytical interest, even when reading purely for pleasure.
Yeah.
Let's take the source's reflection on Adichie, the way she weaves cultural complexity and nuance into these deceptively simple narratives. Or Ferrante, the way she captures intense, often painful female emotional intimacy and friendship dynamics.
That detail moves the conversation so far beyond "do you like books" to "how do you appreciate language and psychological nuance in literature?"
It does.
The specificity transforms the hobby from passive consumption to active engagement.
And furthermore, the detail that the speaker, who's an English teacher, finds themselves constantly analyzing sentence structures and word choices, even while reading for fun. That's a great nugget.
Yeah, it shows how deep the passion
It
runs.
shows that the passion permeates their entire life. That level of insight demonstrates commitment and provides a far deeper connection than merely listing titles.
Okay, shifting to another creative passion, photography. Specifically, street photography in a dynamic environment like New York City.
Oh, yeah.
This is immediate social and philosophical territory.
Street photography isn't just taking pictures. It requires presence, observation, and a certain fearlessness to interact with the environment. The focus on the diversity of people, the architecture, the energy of the city as perfect subject matter, that explains why the individual is drawn to that activity. They're drawn to human complexity and urban vibrancy.
And crucially, the philosophy introduced here, prioritizing quality over quantity, even maintaining a highly selective Instagram account. That's a powerful statement about values.
It is.
It tells you the person is deliberate, careful, and focused on excellence and curation rather than just, generating noise.
And that instantly invites a discussion about artistic philosophy, the challenges of modern content saturation, and how they define quality.
Right.
That is a much richer connection point than simply discussing which camera model they prefer.
Now, let's pivot to physical and creative passions, which build different kinds of bonds based on endurance and commitment. The source highlights fitness running, cycling, and hiking.
The framing here is so important. These aren't just activities, they are framed as therapeutic practices.
Therapeutic, how so?
They help disconnect from technology and encourage presence. The goal is framed as mental health, not just physical fitness.
That framing is the real conversational anchor. You can discuss the difficulties of achieving mental clarity in the digital age and how physical movement serves as a form of meditation or escape.
Yes, and it lets you discuss deeper psychological benefits rather than just workout statistics.
Right.
And the goal setting involved elevates it even further. Discussing the commitment required for advanced goals like running several marathons, New York, Boston, London, and training for a triathlon demonstrates discipline, ambition, and sustained effort.
Training for a triathlon requires tremendous physical and mental dedication across 3 distinct disciplines.
It really does.
And the source notes the duality of the feeling, both nervous and excited about the challenge. That admission of nervousness is a moment of vulnerability that makes the ambition so relatable.
It connects their long-term goal setting to their everyday motivational strategies. You can ask, how do you manage cross-training? Or what mental strategies do you use when you hit a wall?
Right, questions about process.
Questions about process and endurance, which reveal character.
And finally, we hit the social epicenter of passions, music. Playing the guitar in a small alternative rock indie band.
This is immediate, shared cultural touchstone territory.
Oh, for sure.
Music is one of the quickest ways to establish shared cultural memory. Citing specific examples of influences, The Strokes, Arctic Monkeys, Vampire Weekend immediately establishes a genre, a tone, and a set of shared expectations for anyone who knows that scene.
And the dynamic mentioned, balancing playing covers with writing original pieces, shows a blend of appreciation for existing music and the drive for personal creative expression. That tension respecting the masters while trying to forge your own sound is a universally relatable creative challenge.
So when we synthesize this section, the takeaway is clear. Passion provides the blueprint for true connection because it is voluntary and self-directed. By detailing the how and the why of your interests, you offer the other person a chance to see your core character and values in action, which is far more revealing than any professional title.
And it's also important to recognize that talking about a physical passion like running often involves discussing discipline and solitude.
Yes.
Whereas talking about a creative passion like music involves discussing collaboration and cultural influence. Both are valid, but they lead the conversation in very different directions.
That's a great point.
That deep dive into passions leads us directly to the practical challenge of application. Moving from a great first conversation to actually building a lasting adult social circle. The sources are very clear. Making friends as an adult, especially after relocating or entering a new phase of life, requires intentional effort.
The difference between the friendship environment of adolescence and adulthood is stark.
Oh, yeah.
In school or college, the organized structures of socialization classes, dorms, clubs were just built in. Interaction was effortless.
And as adults, those structures just evaporate.
They're gone. You are surrounded by millions, yet you can feel profoundly isolated. So the strategies must be proactive, linking socialization directly to established shared interests.
You essentially have to socially engineer those recurring
You
situations.
do.
The sources outline some proven methods that combine interests with socialization in a structured way. The first example is joining a book club.
This strategy is beautifully low pressure and highly effective.
Hmm.
It combines a love of reading with meeting like-minded people. The structure is key. It's a recurring social activity, maybe meeting once a month, which provides certainty. And the book serves as the mandatory safe topic.
So there's never an awkward silence.
Exactly. It guarantees you have something to talk about.
And that structure allows for natural social progression. The activity provides a clean, time-limited environment, which naturally progresses to a more casual setting, like grabbing dinner or drinks afterward.
Right. The interest is the shield. The socializing is the reward.
I like that.
The second strategy involves taking an interest-based class, like a photography class, at a community center.
Okay.
This provides technical skill building, but also naturally leads to organized, recurring social activities, like organizing photo walks.
That recurring element is so critical. The formal class isn't the final social goal, it's the organized starting point.
Hmm.
The shared activity exploring neighborhoods, capturing the city's essence together, provides ongoing shared experiences and problem solving, which is the necessary fuel for transforming acquaintances into adult friends.
And speaking of recurring activities, we have the unique power of running clubs and similar activity groups. The power of physical synchronicity, as the source calls it, offers a fascinating psychological insight.
Meeting 3 times a week for group lunch creates natural, low-pressure conversational flow. Why is that specific environment so effective?
It's because of co-presence theory. When people are running or walking side by side at the same pace, they aren't facing each other directly.
Oh, interesting.
And direct eye contact, especially in the initial stages, can feel confrontational or high stakes.
Yeah.
The shared rhythmic physical activity that synchronicity facilitates opening up. Your focus is external, on the road and the pace, while your voice is internal and shared. The activity itself lowers the cognitive barriers to conversation.
That is a profound insight. It minimizes the perceived effort of conversation because you are completing a task together.
Exactly.
Now, regardless of the venue, running club, book club, photo walk, what are the key conversational skills needed to bridge that gap from acquaintance to friend? The source provides 3 non-negotiables.
The first is genuine curiosity. This means moving beyond standard scripts and asking meaningful questions that require reflection. You have to demonstrate authentic interest in their life trajectory and their internal world, not just their surface achievements.
And that links directly to the second skill, active versus engaged listening.
Right.
Active listening is often taught as just, paying attention, nodding, maintaining eye contact. But engaged listening, as defined in the source, goes deeper.
Engaged listening is truly absorbing the other person's emotions, intentions, and subtext. It involves asking follow-up questions that demonstrate you heard the feeling behind the words.
Can you give an example?
Sure. If someone mentions their work project was challenging, instead of asking, what kind of project was it? An engaged listener asks, that sounds stressful. How did you manage the pressure?
Okay. That communicates. I hear you, and I understand why this matters to you emotionally.
Yes. It's validating, and validation is a cornerstone of trust.
And the third skill is arguably the most challenging, particularly for individuals who prioritize control or professional decorum. Vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Sharing personal experiences, challenges, and yes, even failures creates a space where others feel comfortable doing the same.
Vulnerability is the true accelerant of deep friendship. It's what transforms a pleasant exchange into genuine human connection. But it requires a personal cost-benefit analysis. Why should I share a flaw or a fear with this new person?
Right.
The sources argue that the benefit building trust and accelerating intimacy vastly outweighs the small social cost. When you admit to a recent failure, a career challenge, or a deeply felt uncertainty, you give the other person permission to be less than perfect.
And that moment of shared support, where
Right.
one person opens up and the other can relate or offer empathy.
That's what reveals the true value of the bond. It's often the shared struggle, not the shared success, that creates the most indelible friendships.
We've established the core skills, but we have to add some complexity here. Given that English is the dominant global business and social language, we absolutely need to stress the importance of cultural awareness.
Yes.
You cannot apply a single social algorithm globally.
This awareness is not just polite. It is essential for adapting one's approach when interacting with people from various national and cultural backgrounds. Our source material gives us 2 immediate illustrative case studies. The American norm and the British norm.
And the differences are profound.
They really are.
Let's start with the American norm. It is generally characterized by being quick to be friendly, approachable, and prone to striking up conversations easily in public places.
Classic chat in line at the coffee shop,
Hmm?
or a brief exchange in an elevator.
Exactly. The key description is initial openness and warmth.
This rapid friendliness facilitates quick initial contact. Americans often move quickly to first names and sometimes to exchanging numbers or making tentative, casual plans. The environment is low context in its initial stages,
What do you mean by low contact?
meaning the intent is often stated directly, and little prior background knowledge is needed to engage.
That ease of access is certainly charming and welcoming, but is there a risk? Does that rapid friendliness sometimes mask a lack of long-term investment?
That is the critical reflection. The sources suggest that while the initial contact is rapid, the depth still requires significant effort. Acquaintanceship is easy, true friendship is still hard.
Right.
That initial warmth can sometimes feel superficial to those from other cultures who equate friendliness with commitment.
Now, contrast this with the British norm.
Right.
The sources observe that British people often take longer to warm up, exhibiting more cautious or gradual behavior and greater formality in initial stages.
And this is not unfriendliness.
No.
It is a higher initial social barrier. It's a formality that serves as the deliberate screening process. The initial engagement may be slower, more reserved,
More formal language?
utilizing more structured language and titles. But the key insight is that once this barrier is crossed, once trust is established, the resulting connections are often deeper and more lasting because they have survived a longer vetting period.
So we have the American model prioritizing rapid acquisition and the British model prioritizing deliberate screening for long-term depth. But we need a third perspective to truly globalize this discussion.
Let's look at the broader framework of high-context cultures, which are often found in parts of East Asia or Latin America.
Okay.
In these environments, communication is less about what is explicitly said, which is low context, and more about shared history, nonverbal cues, and social hierarchies.
So it's high context.
Exactly.
The implication for socialization here is vast. If you try the rapid American approach, striking up an immediate, deeply personal conversation with a stranger in a queue, it might be perceived not just as awkward, but as inappropriate or highly aggressive.
Because you're bypassing the established social protocols?
Right.
In a high-context environment, a connection often needs to be mediated by a trusted third party, or built slowly through repeated, shared, low-stakes activities over time, allowing mutual trust to establish itself within a known structure.
So formality isn't a barrier.
No, it's a mark of respect for the established social order.
That realization is the critical takeaway, as the sources emphasize. Neither approach is superior.
Not at all.
They are simply different cultural algorithms. If you are interacting with someone who seems guarded, recognize it might be a cultural reflection of caution or high-context formality, not a personal rejection of you.
And if someone is immediately chatty, recognize that while they are open, the intentional effort to move that connection from surface to substance, the follow-up and reliability still needs to come from both parties.
Yeah.
Cultural awareness is about adapting your expectations and your pace to the context you are in.
Let's shift now to the tactical level. If social skill is a muscle, we need a daily regimen of exercises. I advise you, our listener, to build conversational muscles by starting with low-pressure situations to build confidence in initiating dialogue.
Low-pressure scenarios are situations where there is little expectation of follow-up, long-term commitment, or deep disclosure. They are essentially practice shots.
Think of interactions like talking to a barista while you're ordering, or making a brief, specific comment about the weather at a bus stop.
Or complimenting a stranger's specific article of clothing, not their overall appearance.
Yes, these brief, structured interactions help you practice initiation and, crucially, practice disengagement without the paralyzing weight of long-term expectation. It's practice by repetition until the anxiety fades.
Once you've mastered initiation, the next step is developing a repertoire of starters. We need to advocate for developing a mental toolkit of engaging, ready-to-use questions to reduce that paralyzing anxiety of, what do I say next?
Yeah, having those questions prepared ensures you are never scrambling for material.
The source provides specific examples that are designed to jumpstart genuine engagement, moving past generic small talk about traffic or the news cycle.
So what's a good one?
One excellent example is, what's been the highlight of your week?
Ooh, I like that.
It's powerful because it makes the person immediately reflect on something positive and recent, flooding the conversation with good energy. It targets current joy.
Or targeting leisure and media consumption, which is a common cultural ground. Have you discovered any interesting books, podcasts, or shows lately?
That gives you insight into their intellectual or escapist tastes.
Right.
And finally, a dream-oriented question. If you could travel anywhere right now, where would you go? That asks about dreams, desires, and imagination, revealing far more about their internal life than asking about their office job.
These starters are excellent, but they are only effective if they are open-ended questions. This is the crucial skill.
It is.
Highlighting the difference between questions that invite storytelling versus those that allow a simple one-word answer that just kills the conversation immediately.
If you ask, "Did you have a good weekend?" the simple answer is yes, and the conversational burden is immediately passed back to you to come up with something new.
And it's awkward.
So awkward.
Yeah.
But if you ask, "What did you get up to this weekend?" you invite elaboration, storytelling, and detail about their activities.
That is the core difference between a conversation killer and a conversation engine.
Hmm.
Open-ended questions encourage the other person to elaborate, transferring the conversational burden to them and automatically generating follow-up opportunities based on the details they share.
You're giving them the floor to share something meaningful, but the best toolkit in the world won't save you if the timing is wrong. We have to discuss reading the room.
Right. The value of observing social cues. Body language speaks volumes, and it's often easier to read than people assume. The source details clear red lights that signal someone is entirely unavailable.
Like headphones.
Headphones in, clearly focused intently on their phone, or deeply closed off body language, crossed arms, angled away from the room, feet pointed toward the exit.
Right. Trying to talk to someone exhibiting these signs is a social misstep and an intrusion.
And conversely, the green lights are clear.
Eye contact, smiling, open body language, feet pointed toward you.
Yeah.
These cues signal that the person is receptive and open to engagement. It's about respecting boundaries and knowing when an opportunity exists without forcing it.
And finally, the often overlooked necessity of the graceful exit.
Oh, so important.
I know, I struggle with this. I always feel trapped when a conversation ends naturally but lingers awkwardly. Many listeners feel this pressure.
The fear of the awkward goodbye often keeps people isolated. We need practical language for politely disengaging. This is where preparation pays off. The goal is to be decisive, polite, and respectful of the time spent.
The recommended language is simple and polite, asserting your agency without apology. Something like, "It's been absolutely lovely chatting with you, but I need to get going."
Or catch up with someone else, or get back to my project.
Right, have a wonderful day.
That phrasing is key. It ends the conversation cleanly, it validates the time spent, lovely chatting, and it gives a polite reason for disengagement, relieving the pressure on both parties.
Mastering the graceful exit is just as important as mastering the initial greeting, because it prevents a positive social interaction from ending on a note of awkward discomfort or perceived obligation.
We've learned how to initiate and have a great conversation. Now, how do we solidify that contact and move from acquaintance to friend? This transformation requires intentionality in the leap.
The first, most important step is taking the initiative. If you've had a genuinely pleasant conversation fueled by shared passions, you must suggest getting together again.
Right.
It can be as direct as, "I really enjoyed discussing our shared love for Anthony Dewar. I'd love to continue this conversation over coffee sometime next week."
But this immediately requires managing rejection. We have to offer the crucial perspective that social declines are almost never personal. They are typically due to complex lives, existing commitments, or busy schedules. Most adults are dealing with a packed cognitive load.
This is a vital mindset shift for you, the listener. We need to frame friendship acquisition as a numbers game.
It really is.
Not everyone you connect with will become a close friend, and that is perfectly normal and healthy. Don't take a refusal as a sign of your inadequacy, but as a reflection of their current availability or life phase.
You just keep putting yourself out there.
Exactly.
Once regular contact is established, the foundation of trust must be built. Our source details the critical importance of consistency. This means showing up, following through on plans, and being reliable.
Reliability is absolutely fundamental.
If you say you will call Tuesday, you call Tuesday. If you agree to meet at 8:00, you are there at 8:00.
It proves that you value their time and that your word means something, transforming a casual arrangement into a dependable relationship. It's the difference between a spontaneous activity and a true investment.
And this leads directly to reciprocity and balance. Friendships, particularly adult ones, need to feel balanced, with both parties contributing equally to initiating contact and making plans.
If the dynamic is constantly one-sided, you are always the one initiating the call, suggesting the activity, or checking in, that asymmetry feels exhausting and leads to burnout.
Hmm.
True connection requires mutual investment, where both parties feel valued enough to put in the effort.
However, the moments that truly define meaningful relationships are not just celebrating successes, though genuine happiness for a friend's accomplishment is essential.
Right, and helps prevent the toxicity of envy.
Yes, the real depth is revealed in being present during difficult times.
Being present means offering more than platitudes. It means offering a listening ear, practical help like picking up groceries or providing transport.
Or just your reliable presence when they are facing a challenge. It means moving beyond, I'm sorry you're going through that, to how can I actually help?
That commitment reveals the true depth of the bond, that the relationship is valued beyond just the fun, easy times.
And this reliability in crisis is what separates a long-term acquaintance from a true friend. It shows you are emotionally reliable, not just punctual.
Now we must address the massive cultural force shaping our social lives, technology. It plays a profound and often contradictory dual role in connection.
We have to acknowledge the positives first. Technology is invaluable for maintaining long-distance relationships, video chats across continents, staying in touch with friends who've relocated.
Mm.
And it also helps in finding niche communities of shared interests that transcend geography.
But the downside, as the sources articulate, is a serious concern. The struggle of the younger generations with fundamental face-to-face social skills.
Yes, leading to skills erosion. So much critical social interaction happens through screens, which filter out essential human data.
We're talking about the inability to read subtle body language, the difficulty handling awkward silences.
Or navigating the natural, unpredictable ebb and flow of in-person conversation. These are nuanced, subtle skills that texting and emoji exchanges simply cannot practice.
And then we encountered the illusion of connection. Social media allows one to curate a massive network, having hundreds or thousands of online friends without any genuine depth or meaning attached to those bonds.
This is what we call the social validation deficit. It feels good to get likes, which provides a hit of dopamine, but those fleeting digital interactions don't provide the substance, reliability, or profound emotional support that is needed during difficult, complicated times.
The appearance of a robust social life masks a severe deficit in genuine substance.
And furthermore, the toxicity of comparison is rampant. Social media's highlight reel culture encourages constant social measurement and feelings of inadequacy.
We are constantly measuring our raw, messy, complicated reality against someone else's curated, edited, and idealized presentation.
The insight here is crucial. Reality, the laundry, the frustration, boredom, the internal struggle is often strategically absent from those curated feeds. You are comparing your entire complicated life to their 5% highlight reel.
Which is an impossible comparison to win.
It's impossible.
So the practical advice must be absolute. Use technology only as a tool to enhance real-world connections, primarily for coordinating meetups or sharing logistics. But prioritize physical presence above all else.
And this brings us to one of the most immediate practical failures in modern socialization, the phone check.
Yeah.
You have to underscore the profound disrespect, or what we might call the attentional betrayal, of constantly checking a phone when someone is speaking directly to you.
It instantly communicates that the person or notification on the screen is more important and urgent than the living, breathing human being standing in front of you. That profound devaluation of the present interaction is connection poison. Presence is the ultimate non-negotiable act of respect in a social setting. You cannot build trust if your attention is constantly fractured.
Finally, we must address the significant barrier that prevents many listeners from applying these strategies: social anxiety. This is not a personality flaw. It is a profound emotional and physical reaction.
The first and most important step is normalizing nervousness. Social anxiety is incredibly common. It's estimated that up to 30% of people will experience clinically significant anxiety at some point.
That's a huge number.
It is, and it should be met with self-compassion and acceptance rather than self-criticism. It's okay to feel nervous, but you cannot let that feeling dictate your actions.
That acceptance is key. Acknowledge the physical feelings of nervousness, the increased heart rate, the sweaty palms, and then separate them from the conversation itself. Then, we can move to preparation and scaling.
Mental preparation is a huge tactical tool. Before going into an event, don't focus on who you will meet, but on what you can talk about.
Right.
Thinking ahead about a few interesting topics or developing those ready-to-use questions reduces that initial paralyzing spike of anxiety.
And scaling is absolutely essential. We call this the laddering approach. Don't jump into an overwhelming large party of 100 strangers.
Yeah.
Start with smaller, more intimate gatherings. A one-on-one coffee, a small dinner with one friend and their one acquaintance. You build confidence incrementally by succeeding in low-stakes controlled environments.
The mindset shift is perhaps the most powerful tool for sustained change. We need to advocate for reframing social interactions not as performances where you might fail, but as opportunities to learn about interesting people.
Shifting the focus from self-consciousness, how do I look, this sounds smart, to genuine curiosity about others. What is their origin story? What motivates them? Immediately improves flow and relieves pressure.
When you are genuinely interested in them, you stop analyzing yourself.
Exactly. The conversation becomes an exploratory learning experience, not a high-stakes audition.
And the reality check is always comforting and necessary. Most people, especially in large social settings, are too focused on their own insecurities and internal worries to judge others harshly. Everyone is dealing with some form of self-doubt and concern, which means they are rarely spending time critiquing your delivery.
And finally, the liberating advice. Recovery over perfection. Give yourself permission to make mistakes, say something awkward, or misread a social cue, and then laugh it off and move on.
That's so important.
Handling those small embarrassments gracefully is incredibly endearing. It proves you are human, reliable, and secure enough to admit a small flaw. We all have awkward moments. The graceful recovery is the true social skill.
We've traveled a considerable distance today, moving from the depth hidden in a simple greeting to tactical strategies for initiating conversation and navigating the complexities of the digital age.
To synthesize the fundamental message, building meaningful connections requires courage, intentional practice, and above all, authenticity. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, risk the awkwardness, and invest your time. But the rewards of genuine friendship, trust, mutual joy, profound support, absolutely justify the effort.
I would reinforce the paramount rule.
Yeah.
Be authentically yourself. Do not try to impress others by adopting a persona or pretending to be interested in things you aren't. The right people will value you for who you genuinely are, and friendships built on pretense are shallow and will never last or satisfy. Remember that every conversation, even the quick chat with the barista, is a learning opportunity.
And remember that consistency and intentionality transform acquaintances into friends. Show up, listen deeply, and be reliable. It's the small, sustained efforts, the proactive suggestion for coffee, the check-in during a difficult time that count the most.
Now, for our final provocative thought for you to carry forward, something to mull over this week.
If technology allows us to maintain connections globally with increasing ease, what deliberate and intentional strategies are necessary to prevent that unparalleled convenience from eroding the irreplaceable value of local, spontaneous, and face-to-face human presence?
Think about that trade-off. What active steps are you taking today to prioritize genuine physical presence in a world that makes digital distance so effortless? We hope this deep dive into conversational strategy gives you the confidence to put yourself out there this week.
Until next time, keep practicing, stay curious, and connect deeply.